All right, let me show you a couple more experiment ideas. So what I'm going to do is I have my pattern experiments invisible. I'm working on my pattern elements layer. It's selected and the visibility is turned on. I'm going to use the line tool for this example. So I want to make sure that my fill is empty and I have a black stroke. And in this example, I'm going to make the stroke weight 0.5. And then I'm going to draw out, holding shift, let's try maybe about 100 pixel stroke like that. I'm going to take my selection tool, I'm going to select the stroke, and I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to transform and reflect, turn my preview on. Oops, actually not reflect, sorry about that. It's not going to work with the line. I'm going to transform and rotate. And what happens if we try 45? No. What about 90? Let's see what 90 does, if that's what I want. 90 degrees. I don't want to click OK. I want to copy. I'm going to make this little crosshair. So I'm going to click copy. Click off. Now you can see that I have that kind of crosshair. So it doesn't have to be one shape. It can be, if I highlight those and I go up to Object, Pattern, and Make. Alright, and I come over here to Width, and I experiment and maybe make that 200 and 200. I can then look at grid, I can do hex by column, I can do brick by column, I can call this cross 1, something like that. I can click done. I can turn the visibility off, click on my pattern experiments, visibility on, click on the layer, try my new pattern. Oops, make sure the fill is selected, come over, try that pattern. There I go, I have offset pattern for that. That's one idea. Let's kick it up a notch. Turn the visibility off. I'm going to turn the visibility on of my pattern element. I'm going to click on it, make sure that it's active. I'm going to take my selection tool, do default fill for now. That's just D for default, or click there. I'm going to highlight this cross. I'm going to option drag that out, these crosshairs. Option drag a copy over here. I'm going to let go of the mouse before the keyboard's giving me a copy. Then I'm going to, actually, you know what? Let's move it, I don't know, out of the way a little bit more. Okay. I'm going to highlight it again. And I'm going to option drag and hold shift, a copy down. Alright, let's see, let's try about 175 pixels. It doesn't have to be exact. Drag it down something like that. I'm going to try something tricky here. Let's see how this works. What if I highlight that, and then I'm going to use the rotate tool, which is R for rotate, and I'm going to option click, not up here, but down here, around that shape. I'm going to move this out of the way. And what if I switch that to 45 degrees and I make a copy? So what this is doing is rotating a copy of these crosshairs, not around this, but around this. And if I duplicated that action that I just did, duplicate starts with a D, Command D, and I'm going to duplicate it around like that. Take my selection tool, and I can keep this. I used it just as a template to rotate around, or I can delete it. I'm going to keep it, but I'm going to select all of those, Object, Pattern, Make. Give it a name, call it crosshairs rotation maybe, I don't know. Just something to kind of know what it is. Might help if I spelled it right. Rotation. There we go. You can nudge these again if you want. You can experiment with different settings. I'll just keep it at grid and the default for now, but you can again experiment. Don't be afraid to experiment. Click on done. Turn the visibility off of our element. Turn our pattern experiments on. We want to get rid of the stroke because we're going to be working with the fill as a pattern. Selection tool, select our rectangle that's on our pattern experiment. Come to swatches and pick that new pattern. And then we're starting to get something more complex. But again, it only took me a few seconds. Only took me a few seconds really to put it all together. So experiment. Think about different ideas. What if, let's turn this off. Come back to pattern experiments. What if we took this and I option dragged it out, and then I right clicked, went to transform, oops, might help if I get that right click, transform, and I scaled it, and I'll scale it uniform, and I'll make it about 150% bigger, and click OK. Oops, I don't want to click OK. Let me try that again. I'm going to undo, Command Z, transform, scale, 150, make a copy. And then I'm going to drag it kind of out of the way like that. And then let's say I option drag one here, and I hold Shift and Option so I can constrain proportions. And I move that over, I don't know, something like that. Highlight those three. Object, pattern, make. I can adjust the width, maybe 100. I can even do 100 down there. These don't have to be the same, right? I could say that's 200. Again, experiment 5 by 5. What if I do 5 by 3? What if I do brick by column? Click done. Turn my eyeball off. Turn the eyeball on for pattern experiment. Select it. Make sure the fill's selected. Come to my new pattern. Boom. I got a new pattern. Just like that. Experiment. Test it out. See what it does. Make cool stuff.